The library near my house recently started carrying Wii games, and the other day I decided to pick up a little game to play for the week. Now, since the other games that I've borrowed from the library have been Thor: God of Thunder, Captain America Super Soldier, and Jaws: Ultimate Predator, one might make the assumption that I go there specifically to find shitty games to review, but I don't. I go there and I check out games that I actually want to play, and that's the reason that anybody should have to play a game. Anyway, my most recent rental from the library is a game called Hyper Fighters, and I seriously think that I have the knack for picking out pieces of shit, because surprise, Hyper Fighters sucks too! Now the reason why I picked up this game is because I love flying games. Games like Star Wars TIE Fighter, Star Fox 64, Star Wars Rogue Squadron, and it's been ages since a really good flying game has been released. So imagine my disappointment when I found out that Hyper Fighters is not a flying game, it's a rail shooter. Now, rail shooters are pretty much the oldest and simplest gaming genre known to mankind, but they're still loads of fun if they're executed properly. Unfortunately, Hyper Fighters takes the most simple gaming genre known to man, and it does pretty much every conceivable thing wrong. The game has no story, and I mean none whatsoever. Each mission has a one-sentence briefing explaining what you're doing in that level, and none of the objectives tie together. You just go somewhere and shoot at people. You don't know who, and the game doesn't either. Don't believe me? Here's how the levels go. The first level says you have to stop Admiral Rohan from destroying an oil rig. Who's Admiral Rohan and why does he want to blow up an oil rig? I don't know, and because he's wackadoodle. The second level says that there's a nuclear bomber loose and, quote, our informant thinks that it might be a threat. No! Really? And here I thought that the airborne battleship with more weapons than a Michael Bay movie was here to shoot rainbows and spread friendship. Then you're at the Red Sea shooting at pirates. Guys, you do know that the Red Sea isn't actually red, right? Also, my targeting reticule is red, so it's kind of hard to see where I'm aiming. The entire game is like that. You just go to a new random place and you blow up a new random boss. You're not fighting terrorists, you're not fighting a single nation, you just go somewhere and shoot things. The gameplay itself is pretty basic. You fly along a linear level, you dodge bullets, and you shoot at enemies. You aim your weapons with the Wii Remote's pointer, and I'll admit it's kind of stimulating how you have to fly and aim your weapons with the Wii Remote at the same time, and you have to get used to splitting your concentration, but that's pretty much the only stimulating thing about this game, because everything else about it gives me brain hurts. Ow! The hell? What just hit me? Your plane takes up so damn much of the screen that you can't see most of the enemies that fly by the bottom half of the screen, and it's always fun when you can't see what you're doing because your own ship is in the way. I'd try moving my ship out of the way so that I can see what I'm doing, but come on, is that all the further to the side of the screen that I can go? Yeah, I'm going to have my plane circle the screen for a little bit. Do you see how little of the screen your plane is allowed to move through? You're only allowed to actually fly through about half of the screen, and of that half you're allowed to fly in, your plane takes up about a quarter of the space. And you have so little room to maneuver and your plane is so large that dodging enemy projectiles, even when you can see them, is just plain not possible sometimes. Actually, you don't know the half of how hard it is to stay alive in Hyper Fighters. Pay attention to the screen for a little while here. Did you see that? I'll play the footage back. I challenge you, try and spot what in the hell shot me. There, it was that submarine at the bottom of the screen. If you don't blow up that submarine, it fires missiles at you from off-screen that are impossible to see coming, and therefore really hard to dodge. That's my biggest complaint with this game. About half of the enemies that shoot at you fire projectiles at you from off-screen so that you can't react to or dodge to them. God damn it! What keeps hitting me? This is a rail shooter where every single enemy movement is telegraphed and set in stone, so they must have done that on purpose. It's just plain not possible to avoid taking damage. There's also no way to recover health unless you're playing on the easy difficulty, and honestly, I'm not even sure how you recover health on the easy mode. I don't know if you recover health automatically or if you recover health by getting power-ups. I just look over at my health bar and boom, it's bigger than it used to be. The game has a few power-ups, but most of them are completely useless. There's a laser scope, which does nothing to improve your aim. There's a missile pack, which I only seem to get when I've already got a full supply of missiles, and invincibility and automatic fire power-ups that don't last long enough to do you any good. And here's the thing. I have no idea what causes you to get a power-up. You don't pick up power-ups, you just get them out of nowhere at completely random times. Maybe the power-ups are related to your score or how many enemies you've killed, I don't know. This game tells you nothing. It doesn't even teach you the controls. This game is like an enigma wrapped inside a mystery, wrapped inside a taco. A crunchy taco where the shell crumbles as you eat it and bits of shell get wedged into your teeth and it bugs the hell out of you the rest of the day. And the taco meat is really greasy, so as you eat it, this orange liquid crap oozes out of it and you're like, ew, I'm never gonna get the tacos at the cafeteria again. I'm sorry, what was I talking about? The game has 3 different ships that you can use, 1 light, 1 medium, and 1 heavy, but the only plane that's worth squat is the medium one. Because it's just plain not possible to avoid taking enemy fire a lot of the time, the light ship's speed doesn't help you at all, and its weak armor will get blown away really easily. The heavy ship is able to take more damage before dying, but the damn thing is so huge that it blocks even more of the screen than the medium plane does, so that you can barely see any enemies at all. You know what? A picture is worth 1,000 words. Check this out. Between the explosions and the huge posterior of my plane, I can't even see what's going on here. Games should not have visibility problems this bad. Plus, a lot of the enemies will fire homing missiles at you, and the heavy plane is so slow that you don't have any chance of dodging the missiles, even if you do see them coming. Obviously, the main draw to the heavy plane is its improved firepower, but the heavy plane only gets 2 more missiles than the medium plane, and its gun is exactly the same. There's basically no advantage to using the heavy plane. You have 2 weapons that you can use while you play the game, a machine gun and missiles. You start each level with a set amount of missiles that varies with which plane you're using, and if you run out of missiles you can buy more by paying 1,000 points per missile, but you're only allowed to buy a certain number of extra missiles in each level, and this number is completely random. I have no idea what determines how many missiles you're allowed to purchase in a level, another mystery for the oozing liquid crap taco that is this game. As for the machine gun, if you use the machine gun too often, the gun overheats and you're left defenseless, and this happens in a few seconds. And most of the levels have segments where you have to fight so many enemies at one time that it's not physically possible to fight off the enemies without your gun overheating, which leaves you helpless while the enemies cut you to shreds. Oh, speaking of things that aren't physically possible, do a barrel roll in the huge-ass plane that can't turn worth shit. Oh, and one more thing, count on about half of your missiles missing because the game doesn't actually have rockets hit their targets unless it's in a good mood. Hyper Fighters has a very distinct problem with its difficulty. You have to beat the entire campaign without any continues, lose all of your lives, and you have to start the game over. Between the game dogpiling you with huge numbers of enemies and projectiles fired at you from off-screen that you have to get lucky to dodge, the game is pretty much impossible to complete on normal or hard difficulty. You could test that theory for yourself to prove how much of a stupid asshole I am, but I really wouldn't recommend it. This game is not worth the effort. If you play the game on easy difficulty, however, you get so many utterly random health power-ups that the game becomes too simple. On easy mode, I played straight through the whole campaign without dying a single time until I got to the final boss. Ah! The entire screen is bright neon orange. My eyes! Each level has the exact same enemies in it. Standard planes, a few bombers, battleships and submarines, and a few helicopters. Rinse and repeat. The game has 14 levels, and all of them are the same aside from the specific arrangements of enemies. The final level of the game has the exact same enemies as the first level had. There's also nothing to distinguish one level from another except for the backgrounds to each stage, and the scenery fluctuates between really cool looking and my eyes! Speaking of, the game has 14 levels, but each level is like 5 minutes long and that's it. If you manage to avoid dying, you can beat the entire game in about an hour and a half, and the game has 0 replay value aside from shooting for a high score. This is one of those games that thinks that being hard means that it's allowed to be short. Also, pro tip for game designers, nobody cares about high scores anymore, unless it's Batman Arkham Asylum and the score determines how many medals you win. Huh, I just thought of something. No story, no cutscenes, bright garish visuals, repetitive enemies, the game keeps track of high scores, co-op that has 0 impact on how the game works, the game is maybe an hour and a half long, and the game is designed to be impossibly hard. Hyper Fighters is an arcade game! I would bet money that Hyper Fighters was meant to be a quarter-sucking arcade game that was released on the Wii after the game failed to get sold in arcades. And it's no wonder, the arcades are full of dime a dozen rail shooters that are better than this, that have more depth than this, that have exponentially better gameplay than this. Games where you can actually see what's shooting at you, damn it! The game looks really good, the graphics are colorful and all of the bosses have awesome science fiction designs, but presentation is not enough to salvage a game or movie. If it was, Prometheus would be a timeless classic instead of an underwritten piece of shit. The only thing worth recommending Hyper Fighters for is its co-op mode. See, in co-op mode, the camera actually zooms back a little bit so that you can actually see enemies without your own plane blocking your view. I know, right? What a novel idea! Also, 2 guns means that you don't have to worry about being left defenseless while your gun recharges, and twice the missiles means that you can kill bosses in seconds. But here's the thing, when your friend comes over to play video games with you and you have a choice of, say, Super Smash Bros. Brawl, New Super Mario Bros. Wii, Mario Kart Wii, or Hyper Fighters, which one do you think you're going to pick? I'll give you a hint, not Hyper Fighters. But I think the best way to describe this game is this. I only had a week to play this game, and the game is so short and insubstantial that I was tired of it long before that deadline. This game is tolerable if you play it with a friend, but again, the game is so insubstantial that you'll only play this co-op with a friend one time. I've wasted enough of my time on this game already, so I'm going to wrap this up. Do not play Hyper Fighters, I'm gonna go play some Star Fox.